Happy Friday, Who Dat Nation. We got a busy show for you today. I'm your host, Trace Girouard, and welcome into today's show. We are going to be discussing the latest around Michael Thomas. Could he actually be coming back? There is some buzz, and there's reason to believe he might be wearing the black and gold once again. Could the Saints be running it back with Jameis Winston despite signing Derek Carr? Could he come back on the roster? Who knows? We're going to talk about more of that. And then a special teams ace, JT Gray, got paid. We're going to break down all of that and more. But before we get to that, I want a quick reminder. Subscribe, lock us in. No producer, no problem. I'm running the ones and twos. I'm talking. We're going to have a good time, and we're going to talk some ball today. But please help us out. Subscribe. The more subs we get, the more content we get. Lock us in today. So let's discuss Michael Thomas. Could he be staying? The reports are coming in that there's progress in conversations between the Saints and Michael Thomas on a contract extension, which is actually extremely interesting considering the Saints recently restructured his contract to give him the minimum cap hit to cut. He's on a minimum base salary. He is a contract that said all roads pointing towards we're getting cut, or he's getting cut. They're moving on. They don't want him back. However, after the Saints signed Derek Carr, Michael Thomas took to Twitter, was clearly excited to have a new quarterback in New Orleans, but the negotiations are, quote, not done yet, but talks are productive. Like I said, Thomas helped recruit Derek Carr to the New Orleans Saints, and he was a big part of that recruiting process. And at the end of the day, Michael Thomas would have to play on a new deal in order to get an extension because his current deal carries a $31 million roster bonus if he is on the roster or if he is on the team by March 18th. And if you guys see me looking around, you guys see me not looking at the camera, it's because I'm looking at my script, looking at the graphics, so please bear with me, guys. That being said, I think Michael Thomas is one of those guys who no matter what, he will be it's going to be one of two things. It's either going to go, he's great, and we proved it. We proved that he could have all that production. He could be that dude again, or he could be the biggest what if story of all time in Saints history outside of the 2019 no catch, which still sucks. But the Saints need a possession guy, right? Found one. I got one right here. He's really, really good at it. Do you remember week 1? There's a reason we picked this picture. Do you remember week 1? Yeah, he's still that dude. When Michael Thomas plays, he is a dog and he is a menace to opposing defenses. But also think about this, guys. Michael Thomas plus the young guns and Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave would be absolutely electric. It would be so fun to see them all run it back. It would be so fun to see them be a big part of the offense because Michael Thomas can mentor and teach these young guys how to get acclimated and further grow in their NFL careers. Obviously, Chris Olave, he is a massive, massive piece of the future of the Saints offense. Rashid Shaheed proving to be the same case. Michael Thomas, him coming back and being a guy as a mentor for these guys to help mold and become even better wide receivers, I see no issues with that. And honestly, if you can get a cheaper deal, why not bring him back, guys? But I want you to weigh in for me. This show is not about me. It's about you, Who Dat Nation. Do you want Michael Thomas back in New Orleans? If you do, type 13. If you don't, let me know in the comment section why you don't, because I'm going to be down there interacting with all of you guys. So if you get hit with the YouTube ad break, take advantage of it. Let me know. If you want Michael Thomas, show some love. Type his jersey number 13 in the comment section. All right, so let's also discuss a new Jameis Winston contract. There's reports coming in that the Saints actually asked Jameis Winston to sign an amended deal for him to become the next or become like a quarterback too, I guess. It would be pretty cool to see that be the case. I would love that because Jameis Winston, he's a lot of fun to have on the roster. He's a lot of fun to have as a guy who can help out on the team. He is a very exciting member of the locker room. And if you remember, if you need any sort of reasoning as to why Jameis Winston could be a good quarterback too, I'm disregarding stats. I'm disregarding any of that. Purely based on the leadership. purely based on him having the locker room support. If you need examples, if you need the ideas of why he's a good fit to be a quarterback to, a good fit for the locker room, please, I encourage you to go to listen to the Trust Levels podcast, the episode that Cam Jordan and Mark Ingram had Jameis Winston on last offseason. Obviously, things transpired or didn't transpire the way that we all wanted them to and the way that they hoped, then they mentioned in the podcast. But that being said, it's worth discussing, and we're going to discuss all that in a little bit more. But before I get to that, another reminder. We are 40 subs away from 12K. If we can hit it on this video, I promise you we are going to have some fun, exciting things headed for you on the video coming up on Monday. Free agency is about to start. Monday morning, I'm going to be in the studio at 7 a.m. getting content for you ready to go. So subscribe, lock us in, tune in, and make sure you have your notifications on. That way you don't miss a thing, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be that cat that's walking down Bourbon Street and doesn't know what's going on around the black and gold. So subscribe, lock us in, and help us reach 12K. Diana Rossini, she was the one who reported this first. She said the New Orleans Saints have offered a quarterback, Jameis Winston, a restructured deal today. Per sources, Winston has until Wednesday to accept the offer, because that will be the start of the league year, or he will be released. So as we're filming this on Friday, March 10th, he has a handful of days to decide whether or not he wants to be back. And if you do end up cutting Jameis Winston, if a deal doesn't work out, here's how the financials pan out. If you release him as a standard release, the Saints save $4.4 million. You get that money right away. You can use that on any player right now. However, if you make him a post-June 1 release, or designate him as a post-June 1 release, you save $12.8 million. The caveat with that, you don't get to see that money until June 1st, which, if you're the Saints, you want the money now so that way you can make some moves, you can make some things happen. But I just kind of want to throw this idea out there. I think that he would be, or that Jameis Winston should definitely come back. I think that it makes a ton of sense, because what's Jameis Winston's market? I mean, there's a bunch of QB needy teams, but a lot of these teams have high draft picks, or have guys that just aren't developed quite yet, or have veterans that just aren't doing as well. They're just kind of on the tail end. They're kind of in a weird spot, like the Texans, for example. I mean, there's a lot of situations that teams are finding themselves in where they may need a quarterback, but in the terms of the best interest for the New Orleans Saints, in terms for the best interest of Jameis Winston, I think it's probably best for them to run it back and for Jameis Winston to return to the New Orleans Saints. And if you're familiar with the gym, GLS, Next Level Performance Facility out in New Orleans, they posted this on Instagram, this picture of Jameis Winston rehabbing. It says, quote, "We're building Jaboo wins," Jameis Winston's Instagram. "What's for us is for us. His plan, we're always in motion. MDF Nation." Interesting. It's cool to see him rehabbing in New Orleans. And Abby actually mentioned this on a previous video, that that they specialize in getting the rehabilitation, getting the strength back in the athlete where an injury has taken place, to be able to perform and use those muscles, use those tendons, be able to perform like they were able to, and have the confidence to be able to plant and make those steps. Because remember, there's the ACL, there's the back, so there's a lot of things for Jameis Winston to be careful of, and GLS Next Level Performance Facility is helping him be able to do that. And I'm just going to say this, my take on this as a whole: if Jameis Winston wants to come back as your quarterback too, absolutely bring him back. I'm a big fan of Jameis Winston. If you guys have been subscribed for a little bit, for more than anything, or for more than just this offseason, you will know that I have been a big fan of Jameis Winston. I like what he does. Do I recognize that he is not the best option at quarterback one? Absolutely. But do I also recognize that the Saints don't have a quarterback two? You could go get Andy Dalton. You could have Jameis Winston, a veteran guy who you can always count on. If Derek Carr gets hurt, if something happens, you can throw Jameis Winston in, because Jaboo knows the offense. He knows the system. He has the chemistry. The other thing that I will say is, it might be worth exploring the draft to get a younger guy. You don't necessarily have to prioritize a quarterback and high in the draft anymore, because you have Derek Carr. While I still think that a guy like Hendon Hooker could be valuable, I think that for right now, it makes sense for the Saints to get Derek Carr to be your quarterback 1, which is unquestioned. But for the quarterback 2, that's where things can get kind of difficult and kind of confusing. It's just going to depend on how this thing all pans out. So I want you, Who Dat Nation, to let me know. What say you? Do you want Jaboo to be quarterback 2 next year? Let me know in the comment section. Type Y for yes, type in for no. And while you're down there, I'm going to have the links to these awesome St. Patty's Day gear. You can get geared up at chatsports.com/screen for all of your St. Patrick's stuff. I like this shirt, but I think this shirt is the one that I'm going to be rocking on St. Patrick's Day. Got some fun plans down here in Dallas, so I'm going to be running around Lower Greenville, downtown area, having a good old time. I'm going to be repping the Who Dat Nation. I'm going to be wearing my Saints gear, going to be wearing some beads, having a great old time. And I got geared up at chatsports.com/SaintsScreen, and I encourage you to do the same. We will have that link for you in the comment section and the description of today's video. All right, to round things out, let's talk JT Gray, the special teams ace. He got his bag, so let's clap it up for JT Gray. Let's clap it up for the Saints for finally investing and not letting a special teams player and a star special teams player leave in free agency. Shout out JT Gray. They are giving him a 3-year contract extension, which he has 100% earned. And as it lays out, it's a $9.6 million salary with a $2.4 million signing bonus, meaning the max that he will make is $11.1 million. And as for JT Gray's profile, he's been a dog. He has been an absolute grinder. He has been a very big part of the special teams. He's a special teams captain, and he's also played in 310 special team snaps. In 2021, that graphic's incorrect. In 2021, he was a first-team All-Pro, and in 2019, he was a second-team All-Pro. So this is a guy that I think definitely has earned his money. He definitely has done what he needs to in order to become a part and an asset of the Saints roster. This contract reflects that. He is a very good player. In 53 games played, he has 44 tackles, 44 stops on special teams, 1 blocked punt, and 3 fumble recoveries. It's really awesome to see him be successful. He is listed as a safety, so he's on the safety depth chart, but he does play most of his snaps on the special teams. I really like this move for the Saints. Despite being in quote-unquote salary cap hell, Nick Wright, you're an idiot. I will say this. It's fun to see them still throwing money at the players that have earned it to keep those guys on the roster, because I think that says something about your organization. So congratulate JT Gray on his extension and type 48 in the comment section. I'm proud of him. I'm excited to see him and see what he does in the coming years. It's really exciting. It's a fun time to be a New Orleans Saints fan. So please be sure to lock us in, subscribe, turn on your notifications, show some love by hitting the like button on this video. And Who Dat Nation, y'all stay golden. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next time.